You are listening to Did You Hear?
Did you hear?
Did you hear?
Did you hear?
Did you hear? The Johnson County Library Podcast.
We are coming to you
from the Central Resource Library
in Overland Park, Kansas.
This is your Library Insider.
We are all systems go, ready for launch. There's an astronaut in this episode. Host Dave Carson and Youth Services Librarian Dianna Spencer interview astronaut Mike Massimino. Don't miss your chance to meet the astronaut on August 1st.
You might have heard that there is an interview with an astronaut in this episode of Did You Hear? Well, you heard right, and we won't keep you from that interview for very long. Just a couple things right off the top. If this is the first time that you've ever listened to the podcast, thank you so much for checking us out. Please consider subscribing and telling your friends if you like it. Those of you that are returning listeners, welcome back. So, who is astronaut Mike Massimino? And just which astronaut is he? Well, he has flown on 2 different missions, and both were to help repair the Hubble telescope. On those 2 missions, he did 4 different spacewalks to make critical repairs to the telescope. Now, Mike is the senior space advisor to the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum. He's a professor of mechanical engineering at Columbia University. His book, Spaceman: An Astronaut's Unlikely Journey to Unlock the Secrets of the Universe, made him a New York Times best-selling author. He's a recurring character on the TV show The Big Bang Theory. He's the very first person to ever tweet from space. And on top of all of these things, turns out he's a really good interview. Here he is. Well, hi, Mike. This is Dave Carson, and with me today is Dianna Spencer.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Diane?
Yeah, Dianna Spencer.
Hi, Diane.
So I'm on the web content team, and Dianna is a youth services librarian, and we're really excited to talk to you today. So just a real quick personal connection. My dad served on the Intrepid, and one of the last trainings that they did was to recover the Gemini capsule.
In fact, I'm at the Intrepid Museum right now, speaking to you from my desk on the ship where your dad served, so that's pretty cool. But I'm an advisor for space programs here at the Intrepid Museum. And yes, right out my window, I'm on the side of the ship where there is a mock-up of the Gemini capsule that they recovered. It was Gemini 1 with John Young and Gus Grissom on board that spaceship. And they recovered that ship. That spaceship on the ship here at the Intrepid. And that's where I'm speaking to you right now from.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, let's jump right into the questions then, shall we? You've done countless interviews. What is the question that you wish someone would ask that no one ever has?
Yeah, that's a good question. What I find is kind of interesting, David, is that I've been asked, as you said, done a lot of interviews, and I've been asked almost so many things. But every once in a while, somebody comes up with something that's a little bit different or a little unusual. I tend to the ones I seem to enjoy are more on the lines of the personal ones, actually, of achieving goals or how to different things on personal struggles, maybe of dealing with failure or disappointment. Things like that is so much a part of I think of anyone's life, and those people who have achieved a goal that they're striving for. People sometimes see it as being easy, and it's not necessarily. There's always, everyone has had failure. Every successful person has had failure and disappointment. But there isn't as successful as how they deal with it. And sometimes I like when I get those questions, those types of questions. As far as what no one's asking, I don't know. I'm happy to answer anything anybody wants to know. So you can ask me anything you want.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, along those lines, I just want to say that I found your book to be not only impelling, but also very perspicacious. I loved your quote about this is ridiculous, this sucks, I'm cold, I'm tired, I'm miserable, why am I doing this? And then how you knew that that was the point of the exercise and that's what made it a total success. And so I really want to say that I just enjoyed that as well. So if you could choose anyone to join you in space, who would you pick for your crew and why?
Well, the right answer to that is your family. You'd want to bring my kids and my family and all that. That's what I think would be fun to have with you. And that's what you miss. You miss some of your friends at home, some of your family members. But I think I was very happy to go with who I had with me. In particular, my second space flight, we trained together for a very long time and really cared about each other. And some of my greatest friendships were made that way. So I think one of the best things about space travel are the people you get to go with and the friendships you develop. But I would have been really happy if I could have brought my family with me.
That's wonderful. And I'm sure your crew almost starts to feel like family after so long.
Yeah, it's very interesting. To me, it's kind of like a hybrid between family and friendship that you have with a crew member. And as a result, some of the strongest bonds I have are with my former crewmates. It really is. I think it's the most fun about flying in space is the people you get to go with. So I was very happy with the people I got to go with, and you don't always get to choose exactly who's going to be on the crew, but I was very happy with the way it turned out.
That's awesome.
Well, so Mike, what was the hardest thing for you to adjust to once you were in space for the first time?
Just moving around because you're floating every place and everything's floating, you're floating, all of your things are floating, and you never really experienced anything like that before. And no one has when you first get there. It's the first time. And you just kind of feel out of sorts, being able to do all these things that seem to be so crazy because everything's floating every place and you're bouncing all over the place and you're losing things and things are floating away from you. And so it just seems sort of frustrating. But after a while, you get used to that.
Do the efforts to replicate and prepare you for that experience of what you're going to encounter in space here on the ground, does it come close at all?
You get trained to do your job really well. The training for spacewalking, for example, we practice that underwater, and we're floating underwater when we do that, so we get that. But in the cabin, when you're inside the spaceship and you're moving around, you get a little bit of training. Maybe we have a zero gravity airplane that we can do parabolas with and go up and down. And as you're going down, you're floating in the airplane kind of in free fall, and it's similar to weightlessness. But as far as like keeping track of your things over a long period of time and learning how to translate around the spaceship, that takes a little getting used to.
All right. Well, in your book, you talk about watching The Right Stuff on repeat. What are some other books or movies that inspired you?
Well, The Right Stuff's my favorite movie and book. I also liked the Apollo 13 movie. And I'm sorry, did you ask me books or movies? You wanted books.
We want both.
Okay. Apollo 13, the movie and the book by my friend Jeff Kluger and Jim Lovell is a great book. I also like Steve Ambrose's books, Band of Brothers.
Sure.
I really like those books as well. So those are some of my favorites.
All right. Could you also talk about what you do with any downtime while you're in space? We imagine that there might be time to read a new book or two.
Yeah, my missions, though, I was only up there for 2 weeks at a time. So in my free time, I wanted to enjoy the space environment. I looked out the window. We had a couple days at the end of our mission where the weather was bad in Florida. We couldn't land at the Kennedy Space Center, so they were forced to keep us in space for a couple extra days. And we had nothing on the flight plan, so we were able to do whatever we wanted. Some of my crewmates wanted to watch movies, or I wanted to just maybe read a book, but I wanted to look out the window and listen to music, and that's what I did in my free time. On the space station is a bit different. Astronauts who go there are up there for 6 months, and they have much more free time than what we had on my missions, where we're only on a shuttle for a couple of weeks. And so there, I think they develop more hobbies. A lot of them get into photography. They'll do some reading. They'll communicate with home, of course. But I think that's where you're looking into developing more hobbies in your free time is on the space station. And it seems like the number one most popular thing to do is take photos of the planet and what it is around that you're seeing. Because it's so compelling. Every time you look out the window at planet Earth, there's something else extraordinary to look at.
Yeah, I can just imagine. Do you feel like every form of transportation that you are the type of person that really enjoys looking out the window and taking in what you're seeing?
Yeah, I do. I think my space experience has made me appreciate more of that. But hey, I do like looking out the window of an airplane or a car or wherever I'm traveling or looking at things. It's really interesting. I think I especially enjoy when flying, looking out the window. It can be beautiful during the sunset or even in a cloud. It's just really interesting flying over different parts of the country, over different parts of the world. And you learn a lot from a different perspective. And being up in the air in an airplane, even I really enjoy looking out the window of an airplane or a car when I'm driving around.
You mentioned you were listening to music. So what were you listening to when you're taking in this incredible view of the Earth?
Different things. Some music goes really well with what you're looking outside and looking at. And I liked listening to Radiohead and to Sting, U2, some of my favorite music.
No kidding.
And went really well with seeing outside. And also some soundtracks from different movies. Dances with Wolves with John Barry and Thomas Newman, who wrote Meet Joe Black. The soundtrack to that, I really enjoyed listening to that in space.
Fascinating. And so we have you to thank, correct, for the Hubble telescope working. Is that correct?
Well, me and a bunch of other people. But those are my missions. And I was lucky enough to be on two of those missions. There was 5 missions to serve as a telescope. I was on the last 2 of those. So, yeah, me and my friends and all the team that helped us get ready and kept an eye on us were up there. I think we all share in that credit.
How did that make you feel when it was suddenly functioning?
I wasn't the very first repair mission. Fixed the optics, and there was a problem when it first launched. I wasn't on that mission.
Okay.
But when we were on my mission, we brought back to life a couple of the instruments, a spectrograph and another instrument, a survey camera. So I felt really good about that. Particularly, that was my last spacewalk, and it was taking an instrument apart that was never intended to be taken apart. And that's what we did, and it worked successfully. And yeah, it's really cool. This one instrument is called the Space Telescope Imaging Spectrograph had failed, and we were able to take it apart and put a new power supply in. And I guess it was maybe maybe over a year ago, maybe more like a year and a few months. A discovery was made of a planetary system on another star that they thought might be Earth-like planets. And one of the articles mentioned, it came from Hubble, but one of the articles mentioned it came from the spectrograph, and that we brought back to life. And my spacewalking buddy Mike Good wrote me a note and sent me the link to the article. He says, "Hey, Matt, take a look at the 3rd paragraph. Good thing we didn't break it." And so I think for those things, I'm really grateful that we were able to go up there and do the job we did, so that these discoveries are all possible.
Yeah, the images are just fantastic, and they just amaze, and they make you so curious about the galaxy, the universe.
I agree. Yeah, and I'm glad they're there. I feel really badly if I broke the telescope and we didn't have it. I'm really glad we're able to see all this stuff.
Right. Well, finally, we ask our patrons if they were able to be so lucky to sit in the very chair that I'm sitting in today and ask you whatever question they wanted to. So we had a number of people submit questions, but here's the best of that. They ask, when you are weightless in space, do you have a sense of direction? Up, down, left, right? do you have any depth perception when you look out into space?
The up-down, that's pretty good because you inside the spacecraft, it's labeled, so you have an idea of where you are as far as you have to get equipment or whatever it might be. But there really is no up and down. If you're in a spaceship, there is things that you can read things or whatever it might be. There is an up and down to them, but your brain doesn't necessarily know all the time which way is up or down because there's no gravity working on you. So your vision system tells you sort of what's up and down. When you're out, when in general, you can get very used to being on the ceiling or having a conversation while standing on the ceiling after a while. But at first, it's a little bit strange. So particularly whatever room you're in right now, say that was a spaceship, and then you launch up into space, and now you're floating in there. And if you were to turn yourself to your right now or on your side to the right or upside down, you would know that you were upside down or you were on the right or the left side. But in space, since there's no gravity, your brain is not perceiving any of that information. And so it's all visual. So what I felt like when I would turn to my right or left, if I would spin myself or spin upside down, I didn't feel like I was upside down. I felt like I was still straight up, but that the room had rotated upside down. And that's kind of weird. And that's what happened for the first couple of days. And then I got used to it, and then it didn't make a difference. Your brain's able to adapt. But at first, it's pretty kooky. So the only way we know up and down is by looking at whatever markings might be on the wall or on a piece of equipment or that we're working with or something like that. Other than that, you can be anywhere you want, and you always feel like you're right side up.
That is just fascinating. Well, Mike, we really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to speak with us today. We have your book on the shelf.
Thank you.
And I know that people are so excited to come hear you talk at our library, and so we're looking forward to your visit.
Thanks, David, and thank you very much, Dianna. I'm really looking forward to it as well. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you. We really appreciate it as well.
Okay.
Have a good one, Mike. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
So, Mike was exactly as advertised. He really is a down-to-earth spaceman. This is kind of several firsts for us. You know, the first time we've ever interviewed an astronaut, but the first time ever recording online, and so we apologize if there's some digital warbling. Also, if you've ever been on a speakerphone call and you feel like you need to raise your voice because you know that the party on the other line is long distance, yeah, we kind of fell into that trap too, but we promise we'll improve. And if we do improve, just think about all the possibilities. We're looking forward to interviewing all kinds of authors, book illustrators, scientists, artists, all kinds of thinkers out there that we know that you're interested in hearing from. So, in the interview, we mentioned that there's an event that Mike will be presenting his unique perspectives on teamwork, innovation, and leadership. That event is called Meet the Astronaut, Mike Massimino, and that is Thursday, August the 1st, 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Central Resource Library. He is also going to discuss the adventures that he detailed in his book, Spaceman, An Astronaut's Unlikely Journey to Unlock the Secrets of the Universe. So, if you're planning on coming out, and let's say you have kids, you might consider bringing them to a program right beforehand called Hands-on Outer Space, and that is from 3 to 5. We hope to see you there. Did we miss a question you wish we would have asked? Do you have thoughts or stories about today's topic? Share them with us on Facebook, facebook.com/Joko Library.
And now, our writer's quote of the day.
Thomas Mayu from the Central Resource Library, Makerspace Facilitator. This quote is from Zero History by William Gibson. When you want to know how things really work, study them when they are coming apart.
we leave you with sounds from one of our locations. It's your audio minute we call Library Zen.
For more episodes of Did You Hear, go to the Johnson County Library website, jocolibrary.org/didyouhear.